What's up, y'all? It's your boy Broadway, and today we're here to talk about. Damn! Thank God we're still recording. Fuck. Fuck it. What's up, y'all? It's your boy Broadway, and today, as I was saying, we're here to talk about the Backrooms. So, just a quick little, just precaution, just precursor before we get into the video. Everything about the Backrooms lore, I am only going to be taking what Kane has given us in his videos. So I understand that a lot of the entities, like the green light entity, the bacteria, the still life, all these things are things that actually have concrete answers if you go and look in the wiki. But when it comes to Kane Parsons Backrooms, we're going to just be using what he's given us. And a lot of the information and lore that's behind on these entities in his backrooms is still kind of unknown, and it's really just based in theory. And so that's what this video is going to be. We're going to get into the creator, Mr. Kane himself, not too much, just a little bit, just to build up. Then we're going to get into my history of the backrooms, and then we are going to be going through essentially what is the entire timeline of Kane Parsons Backrooms. And as you can see right here, this is my Jeff Gordon notebook that I've had since I was in elementary school. You can see I was edgy. I gave him a little Hitler stash when I was little. But I have written the entire timeline in these bunches of pages. So we're just going to go through the pages. We're going to go through the entire timeline of Async and their history. And then when we get done going through the timeline, we're going to just go through my analysis. What I think the Backrooms is as a whole, what I think about Async as a company, what I think the different entities are themselves, and where does Found Footage 3 and Static Dead End leave us going into the movie. And just to forewarn you guys, do not spoil anything about the movie in the comment section because I have not seen the movie yet. Okay? So we're going to get into the reasons why, but let's just go ahead and get back to the regular thing we had going on. Kane Parsons, Kane Pixels, aka the man, at the time was only 15 when he created his adaptation of the Backrooms. And, COVID pretty much locked us all down. And during that time of COVID, he decided that he was going to jump into Blender, among other programs, and learn them like the back of his hand. And then come around 2021, 2022, that's when he gives us the first found footage tape of the Backrooms. And so let's just get into my history. I had only ever heard of the Backrooms through memes, seeing Peter Griffin, like Rick from Rick and Morty, and Blade, among other pop culture characters, getting clipping into the Backrooms. And that was essentially the extent of it. Back in 2021, 2022, I had a YouTube horror short binge. I think we all do occasionally in these modern times. And I believe Found Footage 1 was a part of that binge of many other short films I watched. So At that time, I didn't know the Backrooms had so much lore and that Kane was building a web series off of it. And so I just kind of let it be. And lo and behold, rumors started circulating that a movie was coming out. The trailer drops. I watch the trailer. It hooks me, but I forget about it. And then all of a sudden, it's the week of the 29th and the movie's coming out. So it's a Wednesday, the 27th. I said, okay, let's just watch everything. Let's watch all 22 episodes. And when I tell you I'm hooked, you saw what I just showed you. All these pages, me handwriting the timeline down in the story. I'm hooked, Mr. Kane Parsons. You got me. And I've spent the past like 4 or 5 days just writing, watching, and building theories, looking at comment sections, not looking at the wiki, like I said, treating this like, think of it like I'm treating this as the Halo games from Bungie. You have Halo's trilogy, and then you have these books sprinkled in that add lore and background to more of Chief and Johnson and everything in the world of Halo. But you don't need those books to get through all 3 or all 4 if you count Reach. You don't need the books to get through all 4 of those games and understand what's happening with the story. And so I'm treating the Backrooms as Kane Parsons' Backrooms the same way. I'm not looking at wiki. I'm just going through the 22 episodes, and we're going to be doing an analysis based off the story he's presented with us. Now, that's my history. Let's go ahead and just, before we go into the timeline, I just want to say how found footage number 1 is just the perfect way to start this universe. The effects of a first time watch, the questions it presents. Why is the architecture so asymmetrical? Why does it evoke a sense of nostalgia, but also a slight sense of dread and discomfort? Why are there monsters? Who's writing these messages? Stand still, don't look, the things like that. Why is there what seems to be a human facility down here? Why is there a dumpster that's glitched through the wall and just sitting there? And finally, how many ways out is there? And if there are multiple ways out, do they all lead to a free fall? A perfect way to set up the world. So many questions, so many whys, so many things to ask, so many things to look for. And I just want to ask you guys personally, what would you have done when you came across that wall and it said, stay still, don't move? Like, soon as you read it, 2 seconds later, you heard that noise behind you. What are you doing? Leave your answer down in the comments. So now we're going to get into the full timeline in somewhat chronological order. Now, I've kind of written these out as if they were journal log entries from someone who came across these files themselves and decided to start documenting it from what we've seen. So I'm going to kind of read off of them, and I'll maybe build on it. And just to let you guys know, I am not going in order of the episodes. I am going in literal chronological order of where we believe everything started in 1972 from that file we see in the overflow video all the way to 1990, all right, with the last one. And we'll briefly cover the found footage tapes. But settle in, guys. This is going to be a long one. It's going to be a juicy one. And I hope you guys like, comment, subscribe, do all that shit for the algorithm. I'm 8 minutes in. I can fucking cuss and all that now. So shout out to you if you made it this far. Now let's get right into the timeline where it all started on August 2nd, 1972. We really don't know much about this time period, how developed Async is as a company, if they've created a version of the threshold this early. But we do have a paper file in the video overflow showing text. You can pause it, and there's text on the side talking about electrical frequencies, different type of electrical fields, and so forth. And we see little shots of something overpowering in the room. And towards the end of the video, we see a bright green light appear and violently shake the room. The only other time we see this phenomenon is in the found footage tape number 2, one little shot of it in found footage tape number 1, and maybe 3. I'm not too familiar. We don't entirely know if this green glow destroys rooms, teleports them, or copies them. And I can say for a fact now, after rewatching found footage tape number 2, I believe the green entity does create rooms, because before she turns around and the wall is cracking and look like it's actually destroying itself, you can see the hallway and everything kind of space out and kind of expand. So it looked like the room may have been changing. So we truly don't know what the fate of the girl that's in that room. We don't know if she escaped or what. And I think at the end of this video, my true conclusion is, I think in August 2nd, 1972, this is the true first attempt of trying to breach the threshold of the backrooms. And as I mentioned before, this is the only time we see this light happen when they're trying to breach the threshold. We actually seen the green light for the first attempt. And if we're correct in saying that the green entity expands rooms and creates, then who's to say that when he breached and he triggered that entity to do that, that it didn't destroy everything. It destroyed all his research, his progress, and that's why it took 10 years till May 10th, 1982, for Async to conduct the research in the National Laboratory of Oak Ridge under the supervision of Philip R. Hyman. They undergo the quote-unquote first prototype of trying to breach the threshold, and we see this test fail on this attempt. Now, the title of this video is the first prototype, but I believe in true theory that this is the second attempt. I think it's the first prototype. They have to name it that because maybe it's what's being shown to the public. But if you pay attention to the text on the wall in the overflow vid and the fact that you see machines overseasing, they were definitely trying to breach in 1972. The green entity probably changed the room and destroyed their research. It took them 10 years. It took Ivan Beck and the team 10 years to get funds and resources back up to even try to do another attempt. So I believe that this is the second. And then 6 years later, we don't have an exact date, but sometime in April of 1988, the vice director of Async, Ivan Beck, holds a press conference pitching the intention of the program to shareholders, stating that, quote, it will offer a solution to all current and future storage and residential needs, as well as save billions on property construction and management. And that same year, July 2nd, 1988, Async Foundation conducts the third test to open the threshold. And in this video again, we see that it has failed. And now time jumps a bit more this time, about a good year, about a year and some change, to October 17th, 1989, where Async conducts the sixth test to open the threshold. And yet, against safety protocols, this test was a success, and the threshold has been breached. And here's the crazy thing. This is how dedicated Ivan Beck was to this program. It took them 17 years to finally successfully breach the threshold. But as we're going to see, that doesn't have its just due. So on November 14th, 1989, Async researchers venture into the threshold to survey the lights and tiles. It is discovered that there's no true conduit for these lights to have power. All these lights, they're just running off of nothing. They seem to be self-sufficient. There's no rust or aging, so they're made for indefinite use. There's ventilation systems up in the ceilings, but there's no throughway in the wall for air to get out. Not from what I've ever noticed in the back rooms. There's no actual AC vent for the ventilation system to have a throughway. So again, weird stuff. And when they look at the stamps and everything on the back of all of these lights and the ballasts, it's they're labeled 1975 and 1973, made in the USA. And truly, the only thing I can perceive is that it's connected to the overflow video. We see that Ivan Beck back in 1972 was trying to do these things. So I think when the Green Room copied and mimicked what was around there, it's just still copying and using those same lights that maybe it got a hold of after that time. So that can be, that's my only theory on that. But now we're going to jump forward to the next year, to February 3rd, 1990, where async researchers venture into the backrooms. It is unknown how many expeditions have taken place at this point, but they discovered the corpse of a teenager in one of the hallways. He seems to have been mauled. We also learn in this segment that almost immediately after breaching the threshold, that people start to go missing at an exponentially faster rate than ever before. And so that's the missing persons video, when you see the graph and it shows the blue line is the breach that happened in 1989. And then in 1990, the missing persons rate starts to spike straight through the roof. So my theory is when async ripped the door open, it literally tore multiple rifts in reality across the entire planet, and people, objects, whatever, started no clipping into the back rooms. And so 2 days later, that leads us to February 5th, 1990, where async morticians conduct an autopsy on the corpse researchers found beyond the threshold 2 days ago. They do determine that the cause of death was malnutrition, but the way he was found, it leaves that outcome to be less desired. Because we learned that we also learn that some parts of the decomposition process have been quote unquote stunted. Some parts are decomposing naturally, and in other parts of the body are as if they were being held in stasis. And so if you're watching the videos in chronological order, this is kind of the first time we get something about the backrooms not being bound by time, and maybe it operates on its own set of rules and maybe in itself can manipulate time. We're going to skip a month to March 1st, 1990. Async researchers George Levy, Marvin Lay, Ronald McCarthy, and Peter Tench venture through the threshold. The cameraman, Tench, gets separated from his team due to hearing voices come from one of the hallways. And we know for a fact that it's not in his head because we hear these voices ourselves through the camera itself. And while he's on this expedition alone now because he's been separated from the team, he finds an empty room with what looks to be a camera or something that's just smashed on the floor. He finds a completely blacked out room with wallpaper of a forest. And this is where, if you're watching the videos in order, the Backrooms has tried to mimic the outside world with like an apartment complex that you see in the found footage one. But other than that, I don't think we've seen it yet try to copy the outside world. And it's like in this way, it was trying to create a forest, but it couldn't comprehend and actually generate a real forest. So it had to make a room with the wallpaper as one. And even the house that you see in there, you can't even tell if the house is actually a house or if it's a house painted on the wall to make it look that way. So weird. But yeah, just remember Peter Tench. He went missing February 1st because he got separated from his team in 1990. And 4 days later, on March 5th, 1990, we also learned that Async is now putting up motion sensing cameras spread throughout the entrance floor. And we see during a time where no researchers should be in the back rooms at this hour that something is there, moving, watching. That leads us now to March 11th, 1990. Async researchers initiate development of something called the null zones. We see a screenshot of a fourth null zone being installed within the complex. And I've come to believe that they were probably starting to They probably started development of these null zones after they found that body on February 3rd, and then they probably fast tracked it after they saw that there was unknown life moving within the halls themselves. So the word null is to like nullify, to dull the senses of something, to so it's like nothing, right? And so my only theory is that maybe they're creating and manipulating the energy in these zones to where it affects these creatures in the back rooms, and they can give them a safe space between them. That's my only theory I can come up with. I saw a comment section that I saw a comment in the comment section that's actually quoted the entire text that you can see in the video, but it doesn't really give anything necessarily. It's just a formula you can look up that describes electrical fields and currents and stuff. So now we are jump shipping 2 months to May 6th, 1990, where Async research team holds an expedition further into the back rooms, ultimately coming across a room that we'll dub for now as the Pitfall Room. It's a checkerboard layout with multiple pitfalls symmetrically laid out across the foundation. One member makes it across, and he finds something he wants the camera operator to come across and capture. And I think this might be another moment that we actually see the green light entity, but I'm not sure. I'll have to watch again and maybe put it in during editing. But we see the camera operator fall into one of the many pits, and while waiting for a lifeline to be thrown down to him, he hears the voice of a man yelling. And so, of course, as he does, he ventures further in to find an outside area. This is the first time we see a true outside area being mimicked by the back rooms. We don't know if it's mimicking nighttime or if this area is literally just a void caught in time or caught outside of time, because we don't know if the light's in the sky or if it even is a sky. We don't know if it's like stars, because when he yells, the only thing that answers back is his echo, like hello, 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 like something like that. And it's just this weird, ominous, like it's not even the noise of nothing. It's like a pressure almost, and it's trying to mimic this neighborhood. And of course, he hears again yelling coming from one of the houses, and he goes in there and he sees these signs being inverted, and it's weird. And he goes in and it looks like someone's living in this house, and there's a pile of handcuffs. And then all of a sudden you hear around the corner a voice saying, hey, can any help? Can anybody hear us? And of course, the researcher, he goes around the corner, but what he finds calling isn't human. So now we have to ask the questions. Why is it now mimicking the outside world? Some objects seem to look as if they no-clipped into the world like a person would, and other objects seem to be procedurally generated. Like chairs are asymmetrical, the backrest is too big, the legs are too small, the street signs are inverted. Why is it mimicking people in distress? And we also see that the async researchers recovered this footage of the expedition, and I believe in response, they actually begin the construction of a blockade to that path to make sure that whatever that creature is can't come to them to the threshold. May 8th, 1990, we see that async researcher Peter Tinch finds his way back to the observation room. This is the researcher who got lost in the rooms during the expedition held on March 1st. And we also see a presentation video showing the vital intent of the exploration of the back rooms. As stated by Ivan Beck years ago in 1988, the space in the back rooms will be used for an infinite expansion of storage and residential space, from research and development to industrial processing to storage and warehousing to corporate offices, commercial space, and residential areas. And we also get a recording of someone trying to get in contact with Ivan Beck, but I think we learned towards the end of the video that he may have been talking to Ivan Beck the entire time. means calling about general contractual work, and mainly questioning why there was a fully suited employee, Peter Tinch, found in the back rooms beyond standard hours. Now, this person on the phone, he claims to have no idea who this person is and doubts they're part of the async research team. And now, and I believe, because we learned in the video damage control, when the guy is giving this speech, breaking down everything that happened and coming clean about what they're doing there on the project, he says that a lot of you here are new and weren't here when that incident occurred, when he went missing back on March 1st. So I believe that the dude that was trying to get in contact with Ivan Beck may have been a lead that was brought in late on the project, and he didn't know who Peter Tinch was, and that's why he was saying that I have no idea who this person is, and he's doubting him. But regarding Peter Tinch, this employee wasn't recognized, pretty much just said this by the man talking to Ivan Beck, because it's been 2 months since Tinch had been missing. And during the 2 months of his disappearance, Async did hold search efforts to find Tinch for 2 weeks, and after his appearance on March 1st. But after those failed attempts of searches, Async provided a cover story stating that Tinch passed away in a car accident, not only to provide closure to the family, but to keep prying eyes away from the facility as well. This story held until the night of May 8th, where Async employees were able to de-escalate the situation with Tinch for a time. May 8th is when he found his way back into that observation room and he triggered the alarm to go off. The employees that found him were able to de-escalate the situation, and they informed Tinch on the situation where he has been legally dead, and that it would take time to integrate him back into society without raising suspicion. And though Tinch was visibly and mentally changed during this time in the rooms, he seemed okay enough with this plan and was kept in the facility for the next few weeks. That was until May 22nd, 1990, when Tinch's mental state pretty much came to a head in the night of the 22nd. During transportation back to his room, Tinch broke away from the research group and fled back through the threshold into the back rooms, and he stayed there. Apparently, he seemed to develop a form of paranoid schizophrenia during his time in the rooms, and that led him to believe that he never actually left the complex when he came back into the observation room, but everything was still an illusion, and that Async was trying to do harm to him. So fast forward 3 days to May 25th, 1990. Async researchers lead 2 teams through the threshold. Team A assembles a walkway across room 14D, the pitfall room, while Team B conducts an initial layout analysis of room 14C. They now have a shotgun with them to combat the possible monster that the cameraman encountered during the expedition on May 6th. This is May 25th, 1990 continued. Progress into room 14C is brought to a halt when they run not into a monster, but into a crazed Peter Tinch, who is lying wait and ambushes the research team. He disarms the shotgun from one of the employees, and after some time talking, the gun is discharged into one of the researchers, and Tinch, he flees the scene. May 26, 1990. Async holds a facility-wide meeting to address the situation that unfolded last night. I've already laid the foundation, but here is where we first learn of what really happened to Peter Tinch during those 2 months he was missing. We see that the moment Tinch was separated from his team on March 1st, that he wasn't just missing, but that the complex itself had manipulated time and instantly teleported him 2 months into the future to the date of May 8th, where he was discovered tripping the alarm in the observation room. We also learn that the moment Tinch fled from room 14C after firing the shotgun last night, that he was able to actually make his way to a service elevator that brought him to the surface. He escaped the property without being seen by witnesses, but apparently didn't make it far enough before meeting his demise by falling on the hillside and bashing his head on a rock. We'll get into theories about that later. But now we're in May 29th, 1990. Async researchers venture through the threshold once more to analyze what's on the other side of the pitfall room. Two discoveries are made, one by the research team, and two, really, by us ourselves. The first is by us, the audience. If you pause at a moment into the uncharted hallway in room 14C, we see the researchers have placed the blue tape, like squared off blue tape, on specific walls, isolating certain points. Have they found rifts? Because remember, think back to found footage number 2, where the girl, she put blue tape on the floor where she found her little blip spot, and that's where ultimately she got sucked through. Have they found thresholds that weren't created by async that lead back into the real world? The last discovery is a room full of furniture completely clipping through the floors and the walls, and the video pretty much ends. But in the beginning, we also get audio of Marvin Lee having an argument with, I believe, George, over what just happened with Peter Tinch. This also established this now in the story further establishes distrust within the organization at the end of damage control. Async lead says that during the meeting that Tinch was killed during his escape on his own accord, that it was an accident, but Marvin doesn't seem to believe that, insinuating the company, quote, put him down like a rabid dog over a minor hiccup, end quote. And to be fair to him, escaping isn't a small thing, but I understand his perspective. Yet, at the end of one of the videos, we see security footage of Tinch in a city street. So, potentially, Peter Tinch actually escaped, and Async had to cover it up. And that, y'all, is where we end the current timeline. That is the last video we get of Async. That's where it kind of leads us with, partly. But honestly, before we even get anywhere, let's just get into what I think. What do I think the Backrooms is as a whole in itself? And I believe the Backrooms is, well, for one, let's just reference a interview from Kane Parsons. I think it was with the guy from Smosh. Somebody that's from Smosh was interviewing him about the movie, and Kane said that for a fact that the Backrooms is not based in religion or spirituality. It's not paranormal. So you don't do something in your life to get sent there. It's not hell. It's not a purgatory. It's just a natural phenomenon that has occurred in our world. And so what I love about that is the fact that now we're reaching into Lovecraftian territory, cosmic horror territory, where I believe that the Backrooms is some type of entity. I think it is an entity that is like it's like a cosmic energy. And you can almost think of it as like procedurally generated AI. It's a form, it's a separate plane of existence that is aligned itself parallel with our world. And once it got breached, now it's copying. Like you think of the line from the Backrooms movie trailer where Chiwetel Ejiofor's character, I think his name is Clark, he says that it creates these rooms, it remembers, like it has these memories, but then it forgets. And so and that makes sense when you look at these videos of people who go through the Backrooms. Like the further they get in, it starts kind of normal. The architecture is somewhat symmetrical. Some things are off, but they're not entirely off yet. And then the further you go, the more doors you go through, the more rooms you cross, the architecture just completely takes a turn for the worse and nothing makes sense. So it's like it's trying to copy and mimic rooms in life, but it doesn't exactly know how. So signs end up inverted. Um, Houses don't make sense. Not only do signs end up inverted, but street signs end up inside of houses. They end up too big. Um, it's just it's a complete. I do believe that it is an entity within itself. It's a cosmic energy that is like a plane of existence that creates things. I don't know if it's inherently evil, but I just do believe that it is some type of cosmic entity that we'll never truly be able to understand, you know. And that's a another thing when you of course look at um we can go into async now. I think that leads me right into async. Like what do I think about async? I don't think async is inherently evil either. And I think the best comparison I can make for async is if there's any gamers out there and you like the developer Remedy, I think the best comparison is the Federal Bureau of Control in their game Control. The FBC. They're organization that is pretty much tasked with overlooking the paranormal and paranatural things that are in our world and keeping it hidden and secluded and protecting the public. Like they're not just evil corporation who's trying to use the oldest house for some type of weird way to progress them financially or whatever. Like no, they're actually trying to keep the things that are within the oldest house contained while also like keeping the public safe and of course having to lie about it and whatnot. And I think async is in the same boat. I don't think they're evil. They have to do some shady shit to keep their things, to keep this project under wraps because you can't have something crazy like the Backrooms existing coming out to the public that would cause complete chaos. And yeah, I like the fact that there seems to be camaraderie. There seems to be camaraderie within the employees that work there. Like people care for each other. Marvin hates what happened to Peter, and he's just wondering, when's next? Like he's like, what is it? What if it's one of us? What if it's me? What if it's you next? This shit isn't quote unquote cost effective, George. Like this is my life we're talking about here. But yeah, there's real people and real soul within the company of Async, and they're kind of doing an interstellar. Like Kane is kind of doing an interstellar story. Like in the presentational video, the voiceover is talking about there's overpopulation is a thing. The world is decaying as we know it, so we need to essentially move things and people away from Earth because we can't save Earth. So why don't we just go into another place from Earth? In Interstellar, it was finding another planet, and Kane Parsons, the Backrooms, is using the complex as a residential area and and a workspace. And so the next thing I guess we'll go into after async is what are the creatures and entities within the halls itself. This is where a lot of separation kind of comes in from um, Kane Parsons' backroom story and what you can go find on the Wikipedia because there's true explanations of, say, like something like the bacteria. And I do think he's kind of going to lean into that because I think people said from the the Wikipedia says that the bacteria monster is a mutated strain of bacteria from our body, and it's collected every like piece it can from the corpses of dead people that it got trapped in the back rooms, and it's making a one form of itself. And I don't know if I'm willing to go completely in that direction for Kane Parsons backrooms, but there in the autopsy video he does mention that there is a certain bacteria called uh, bacillus or something like that. And I looked it up, and that's apparently a bacteria that exists within our bodies that's usually meant to fight infection and stuff like that. But I don't think that that bacteria itself is mutating. I think the backrooms entity is again trying to mimic human life at this point. Like instead of now, it's not trying to mimic rooms. Now it's trying to create a human form with this bacteria. It's mutating from the mold and from the decay from the certain parts that have actually decomposed normally. And I just think that's very interesting. There's something called like the still life, which is where the backrooms tries to create a version of the person who's stuck in there, like in that moment. And so I think there's theories about the guy in found footage number three, the that entity he comes across in the speaker room. People say that that was the backrooms trying to make a still image of him, and of course, it comes out messed up because it doesn't understand, it can't generate a fully normal working human. It can only generate a copy, this monstrous copy of yourself. And then that's also where we get into the green light entity. And, apparently on the wiki, um, I think Kane has kind of fully leaned into this because we've seen the wall expand in found footage number two. And I think if you take that knowledge with the fact that in 1972 the green light appeared in the first test, I think it makes sense that the green entity probably manipulates and changes the room um, on command whenever it wants to. And there's also multiple different lights in the back rooms. Like there's moments we see a blue lighted room. We've seen, I think at the end of Found Footage 3, um, our main character, he's sitting in a room that's a red light. And so, you know, are these lights entities? Is the blue light a different entity? Does it interact differently from the green light? Does the red light interact differently from the green and the blue? What are these? How do these things interact? Why are they different? What makes them unique? I think these are all cool questions to be asked. And so, and then the last question you're pretty much left with is, where does the end of the web series currently leave us? And I think we can, I kind of said it in the end of the timeline with the video Static Dead End. That's the last video of the async timeline. And the main takeaway we get from Static Dead End is the fact that async has now found involuntary thresholds within the backrooms. And what I mean by involuntary thresholds, I mean thresholds that weren't created by them, but that were just a ripple effect from their first successful attempt. Because you see the blue tape outlined in the room that they went to discover. So that's one thing we're meant to take away. And the main thing we're meant to take away from found footage number three is two things. One is the fact that just how much the back rooms and our reality at this point in time, is starting to blend and meld itself with our reality. Like it's not just blips and rifts that you can morph and get sucked into anymore. We see that this dude's basement pretty much got turned into a literal back door into the back rooms. And not only did it turn into a back door into the back rooms, but this is also what we're meant to leave out with. We see his glass door broken downstairs that leads outside. And from what I can tell, the glass doesn't break going inward into the house. The glass breaks going out to the outside world. So something or someone that got trapped in the back rooms broke out through his house and is now in our world, whether it be a missing person that's been stuck down there or whether it was a creature that escaped the back rooms. Something is in our world. And the third thing is, this is not even a third thing, but it just ties back into the fact that the back rooms and our reality is starting to just blend together seamlessly. You know, it's not just rifts and slips anymore, it's literal doorways into it. Um, we get that with the end of Found Footage 3, where our character goes up, he ends up going into a house. He ends up going into a house and um he starts having a conversation with the dude on the other side of the wall. Now, this took me about 3 watches to catch this, but the house that our character is in, that is the same house. That is the guy he's talking to, the dude he's interacting with on the other side of the wall. The back rooms is now mimicking, not just copying places, but it's now actually mirroring like a certain place. So if that dude, so there's a part when you look to the right and you see the front door. When he opens the front door, he just sees an elevator shaft. That's what it looks like, but it's perfectly aligned because when the dude on the other side opens the front door, he sees the outside world. But we are in that dude's house. It is a perfect reflection of his house. We see a picture on the wall. We see what that dude looks like. We see what his son looks like. So we actually get to see the dude's face of who we're communicating with. And towards the end, you know, after a bit of banter and, you know, going back and forth, the guy says, look, just give me some time. And we'll break the wall down. But then you hear him say, wait, there looks to be like a slip right here. Hold on a second. And a bunch of noise happens. Shit goes crazy. And yeah, homeboy gets sucked into the fucking back rooms. And, you know, hey, that sucks for that dude. Shout out to him, RIP. But I also want to add in the fact that I think this was the moment that our character in found footage number 3 could have gotten out. Because the reason that dude got sucked into the back rooms was because you hear him say, there's a slip in the wall, hold on, move out of the way, you need to move. And you hear him start to mess with the wall and push in. And then as soon as he does that, he gets sucked in. I have a feeling that if our main character would have just at any point of the wall began interacting with it physically and began pushing in on it, I think he would have actually blipped out. And I think he would have saved himself. But he was just, you know, too scared, panicking, he wasn't thinking. And unfortunately he got the other dude sucked in, but he was laid there to die and stay. So guys, that is my breakdown and analysis of the Backrooms. That's what I think the Backrooms is as an entity. I think it's a cosmic horror that's parallel with our dimension and trying to mimic it and copy it. I think async is not evil. I think they're just trying to do a good deed, but they don't realize what they've done. You know, like I said, we're left off with the fact that the Backrooms is now seamlessly blending in with our reality and creating doorways instead of rifts that you can just actually walk into. And you actually see that in the movie. That is continued seamlessly in the movie in the furniture store. It's not just a it's not just a no clip point. Like there's an actual split in the furniture store wall and he can see through it into the back rooms. It's actually bleeding and blending into the real world. So yeah, I cannot wait to watch this movie this weekend, y'all. I actually can't wait for 2 reasons because when I watch this movie, it's gonna be a double feature day. I'm a caretaker for my mom, so I'm gonna go take her to the movies this weekend, and we're gonna go see 2 movies. We're gonna start the day off with Obsession, and then we're gonna end it off with The Backrooms. I think that's a great double feature. The last time I did a double feature at the theater was with my son's mama. It was when Toy Story 4 and the newer Chucky movie came out. And we watched Toy Story 4 in the afternoon, went to go get some dinner, and then we watched Chucky at night. It's a great day, a great double feature experience. And I can't wait to go see Obsession and Backrooms this weekend. I can't wait to get mainly watch it so I can come back and talk to you guys more about the lore and everything because it's just so damn, it's so fascinating. I'm so enthralled with what Kane has created with this, IP. It's a public IP, no one's copyrighted it, but I love his story and his take and the way his storytelling is. And he said ideally, if the movie does really well, he doesn't want his Backrooms to be turned into a bunch of franchises. He said that ideally, if this does well, which it already has, um, a YouTuber I watch posted the box office weekend yesterday, and I think Backrooms made 81 million its first weekend. So, Kane, I think you're gonna get that 9 episode series you want, buddy. And I hope you end it off great. And I just hope you get it for one. I hope it's still published by A24. I think it'd be cool to see A24 publish a show for you. And yeah, man, I hope you get it. I hope you get it so we can get it. And we can keep just dissecting and diving into these stories of yours, man. I hope you guys enjoyed my breakdown and just my analysis on what I think. Give me your theories, give me your thoughts on Kane Parsons' Backrooms. The shit, I would love to be able to sit down and talk to him one day, maybe give him some ideas, and yeah, just exchange because I'm a writer. But I think I want to do some shit with the Backrooms myself, honestly, because it's such a it's such a just cool idea in a cool world. And yeah, we just need more cool stuff out in the world to look at. But you guys watching this video, I hope y'all be safe, keep pace, have faith. It's a crazy world. Come back and watch these videos, get this content that your boy Broadway is giving you because it's damn good content. Let me tell you, it's damn good. And take it easy, man. I hope y'all have a great day. And yeah. Peace.